the Phantom Library. Claire was a college student battling insomnia, often finding herself awake late into the night, browsing the internet. One night, she came across an unusual website. It promised access to something called the Phantom Library, a collection of books thought to be lost to history rare, forgotten manuscripts that had either disappeared, been destroyed, or never finished. As a literature major fascinated by the idea of forbidden texts, Claire's curiosity was piqued. According to the website, all she had to do was request a book, and it would be delivered to her. Without thinking twice, Claire entered the name of an ancient, mythical book she'd once read about the Shadow Grimoire. This book was said to hold dark, powerful knowledge but had been lost centuries ago. After submitting the request, Claire felt a mix of excitement and doubt. Surely this had to be a hoax. She shut her laptop and went to bed, not expecting anything to come from it. That night, Claire was startled awake by a loud knock on her dorm room door. Groggily, she glanced at her clock, 3:33 a.m. Confused, she walked to the door, but when she opened it, no one was there. Only a small, brown paper package sat on the ground. Claire's heart raced. The package was old, wrapped in thick twine and covered in dust, as though it had been delivered from a different era. Her name was scrawled on the top in a shaky hand. Inside the package was a book. It looked ancient, with a cracked leather cover and no title except for a strange, unfamiliar symbol etched on the front. Claire felt an eerie chill as she touched it. The book was unlike anything she had seen before. When she opened it, the pages were yellowed and fragile, filled with indecipherable writing and symbols that seemed to shift and move as she stared at them. Despite the unease that crept over her, Claire couldn't stop herself from delving into the book. Over the next few nights, she spent hours trying to make sense of the symbols, but each time she looked, they appeared different, as though the text was alive. The more she read, the stranger things became around her. The lights in her dorm room would flicker uncontrollably, strange shadows appeared in the corners of her vision, and a cold, suffocating presence seemed to fill the air whenever she touched the book. Then came the nightmares. In her dreams, Claire found herself wandering through an endless library. The shelves stretched far beyond sight, filled with books older than time itself. There were no doors, no windows, just endless rows of dusty, forgotten volumes. And within the library, she was never alone. She could hear faint whispers all around her, and occasionally she would catch glimpses of figures moving in the shadows, always just out of reach. Claire tried to dismiss the dreams and the strange occurrences as her imagination running wild. But one night, as she sat reading the Shadow Grimoire in her dorm, something happened that she couldn't explain away. The pages of the book began turning on their own, the symbols glowing a deep red, as if illuminated by some sinister force. As Claire watched in horror, her dorm room began to change. The walls shifted and stretched, turning into towering bookshelves, identical to the ones in her dreams. The furniture vanished, replaced by an infinite maze of books. Panicked, Claire jumped to her feet, but the exit to her dorm room was gone. She was trapped in the library from her nightmares, the air cold and thick with an unsettling energy. She screamed for help, but her voice seemed to be absorbed by the heavy silence. As she wandered through the aisles, desperate to find a way out, she heard a noise behind her, a slow, deliberate shuffling. Turning around, Claire came face to face with a figure. It was tall and skeletal, its hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. In its bony hands, it held a book. "You sought knowledge," the figure whispered in a voice that sounded like wind through dead leaves. But knowledge comes at a price. Before Claire could react, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. She looked down to see her skin fading, becoming translucent. Her body was turning into shadow, her very essence dissolving into the air. She tried to run, but no matter how far she went, the endless shelves surrounded her. The whispers grew louder, voices of the lost forever trapped in the Phantom Library. In the distance, Claire spotted a shelf that held the Shadow Grimoire. But next to it, she saw something new, a book with her name on it. She realized in that chilling moment that she had become part of the library's cursed collection. Weeks later, Claire was reported missing. Her dorm room was left untouched, but sitting on her desk was the Shadow Grimoire. Another student, curious and unable to sleep, would soon discover it. And thus, the Phantom Library continued to grow,